Okay, so, and I will share my screen as I begin talking here. Okay, great. So sorry, let me get this all set up. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I am Cami Griffith from Kurzweil Education. I've been employed here for a long time, for about 11 years. And prior to that, I taught and I worked for another organization developing assistive technology. So what I would like to do today, although you can certainly guide me differently, this is very informal. I would like to give you an overview of Kurzweil and specifically focus on two parts of it. But I'll start off by showing you a helpful website, or actually two websites with lots of resources, both for students and staff. And before I go into any of that, I'll just tell you a little bit about the tool, how it works, and who it can really help. So Kurzweil has been around for a long time. It started off years ago, primarily just as text-to-speech, meaning it read text aloud. And it's always done that very well. It's been really a leader in the field of programs that do that. Through the years, there have been a lot of features and functionality added to the program, and it's become a much more broad literacy support tool, often made available on college campuses as you're doing campus-wide, meaning any and all students and staff can access the tool. So it reads text aloud, but in addition to that, there are lots of supports to support comprehension, writing, and it can be used for increased independence during test taking. So for any student that might be falling behind or in terms of the pace and rate of their reading assignments, this may be a helpful program for them. For students who struggle with any part of the writing process, this may be a helpful tool for them. So it's really a tool that can be used for a broad range of students. So let me start off by showing you two helpful websites, and I can send the links to you after. So the first is Kurzweil's YouTube channel. And on our YouTube channel, we have a series of videos that we've categorized into playlists to make it a little bit easier to categorize what these videos are. So you can see some of the folders. There's an administrative part that has 6 videos, a part focused on test taking, Kurzweil and Google, and so on. All of the videos on our YouTube channel are relatively new. And again, they're short and concise, so they really get to the point in terms of what the topic is. So I'll go ahead and close that tab. Another website, oops, I'm actually going to open it right now, is our organizational website. And I'll show you the parts of that that are most helpful. So under kurzweiledu.com, we have an academy. And there are really 2 sections, which I think are most relevant to you. First, under Kurzweil Academy, there are additional videos. All of these black folders have videos in them. And then there are product guides. So for anyone just beginning with Kurzweil, whether it's student or staff, the getting started guides are very helpful. And then another area of this site, for any subscriber to Kurzweil, part of what you're into with that subscription. I think someone is off mute.
I would just caution you as you're looking at how you want to structure this. So make sure that it's pretty solid and clear, because there are folks, as you know, in this institution who treat their college or their program as a fiefdom, and if you give them any wiggle room, they're just going to say, no, this is how we're doing it. That's it. And if you can't point to the contract and read it,
I'm going to type in the chat here. Oh, there we go.
So in that 3-year cycle model, do you see a role for DEPC in years 1, 2, 4, 5, or only in years 3, 6?
Okay, thank you. Let me see. So for all subscribers to Kurzweil, part of what you're paying into with the subscription is being up to date and current with the program. Here at Kurzweil, our engineers actually release updates the first Tuesday of each month. Very often there are actual new features added to the tool, and sometimes they're bug fixes. Kurzweil is an extremely reliable environment, but that being said, things go wrong occasionally, and there is a team of engineers there to address issues that may arise. So those updates can be found under the new features section. So let me close that and go right into the tool. So with Kurzweil, there are 3 parts to the program that people have access to. There is a full installed version, the client version of the program, that can be installed on any Mac or Windows computer. There's a browser version of the program that I'm going to go into in just a minute. The browser version will run on any device from any location. So whether it's a phone, an iPad, whatever device it is, Kurzweil will run on it through a browser. I'm in Chrome now on a Mac, but it's any browser on any device. So it makes that reading really accessible to students. And the other piece is a read the web extension. There are 2 read the web extensions, one for Chrome, one for Firefox. And those can be used to read any website. It will also integrate well with any and all LMSs. And I'll go ahead and I'll show you Canvas a little bit later. So let me start off with I'm going to show 2 of the modalities to you today, the browser version of Kurzweil and the read the web extension for Chrome. So the browser version is, again, it'll run on any browser, on any device. When you bring up your browser, the URL is Kurzweil, the number 3000.com. And there are a couple of different options for getting into the tool. One is to know your username and password, and you can manually log in, as I'll do. And there's also an option for single sign-on. Let me go ahead and log in. And I'll talk a little bit about the interface, the look and feel of the tool, and then I'll just show you some of the features. So I logged in as a teacher, which looks slightly different than if I were to log in as a student. So when I log in as a teacher, I can see this middle tab. There are 3 tabs: a universal library tab, a my account tab, and a help tab. As an administrator or a teacher, I have access to this middle tab, which has some administrative parts of the program. I'm going to skip over that for now and go right into the universal library. This is where I can open my reading material and then begin to use the tools in the program to support me as I read. So everyone starts off with 2 folders. I'm Cami Griffith at the top. I start off with a public and private folder, and I have the ability to add folders. And so what I did is I created additional folders, and this is my course load right now. So I'm taking biology, English, math, and psychology. And then I can begin bringing text or textbooks into Kurzweil and save them to the appropriate folders. Maybe it says semester 1, semester 2. Obviously, you can create and title folders to whatever works well for you and your individual organizational method. To create a folder, you simply right-click, add folder, and then give it whatever name you'd like. So I have a short PDF in my biology folder. And the way I got it or brought it into Kurzweil was I saved the PDF to my desktop. Again, it doesn't have to be a short PDF. It could be an entire textbook. And then on the upper right, I selected computer. I navigated out to that PDF. And as soon as you select that text, Kurzweil begins a process of recognizing the text and any associated graphics. And it does a very good job of keeping that original document, whatever you're trying to bring in, intact, meaning the look and feel of that. So let me open this PDF. By the way, please feel free to unmute yourself at any point. I'll stop periodically and ask questions, but you can also just chime in. And then I'll also try to keep an eye on the chat window. Let me go back to page 1. And you can see once I opened this PDF, there are a series of features both along the top and along the left. And what I'll do now is I'll just begin to show you some of the features to support reading, annotation, note-taking, comprehension, and writing. I certainly won't show you every feature. I won't even show you half. Kurzweil is very feature rich, but I would just like you to gain a general understanding of how the tool can be used to support those different parts of literacy. So first of all, Kurzweil is very customizable in the way that you can tell it your preferred reading environment. And some of the ways you can customize it are, first of all, you can choose a voice that you're comfortable with. We buy now something called a cappella text-to-speech voices. And there is a wide range of male speakers, female speakers, speakers of different languages. So hopefully someone can find a voice or even a couple of voices that are pleasing to him or her. Another thing, you can adjust the rate of speech. When Kurzweil begins reading, it will highlight text and read it aloud. So it provides a multimodality way of reading. If someone is reading really challenging content and they're reading something for the first time, they might want to slow down the rate of speech. If they're rereading that text, maybe the night before a big exam, or if they've already read it a few times and they just want to pick up maybe some last minute information, then they may want to bump up that rate of speech. The unit and mode refer to the way the text is highlighted and read aloud. So by default, it's going to highlight one sentence at a time and read in a continuous mode. And I'll go ahead and just have some text read. So you place your cursor where you'd like the reading to begin.
A seed consists of an embryo and its food supply, surrounded by a protective coat. When mature, seeds are dispersed from their parent by wind or other means.
So it has this dual highlight mode where as the text is being read aloud, it will highlight a sentence in one color and the word being spoken in another color. So for any student that has a difficult time decoding text or maybe attention issues, that highlight mode can help them visually track as they're hearing the text read aloud. So moving along the upper right here, another helpful feature, not necessarily with a short PDF, but if I was looking at a textbook, the document view may be helpful. And this just gives you a short picture or image of each page. Let me go back. And one other thing here, the document zoom feature, if you deselect fit with, you then have the option to manually zoom way in or out. And so if it's a student with a vision issue, this may be helpful to them because they can zoom way in. And fit with will just size it to your specific display. And then moving along the top, so my read buttons, I can read, I can go back a segment of text if I want something reread or jump forward. I'm going to go into this in a minute. This is the speech to text option, meaning you have the option to dictate into Kurzweil, and I'll show that in just a minute. Moving over, there are some reference tools. So anywhere along the way throughout my reading material, first of all, I can obtain a quick definition of a word. So if I put my cursor before the word seed, I can then pull up a definition. And anywhere there's text to speech, meaning I can have that text read aloud.
A mature plant ovule containing an embryo, a small dry fruit.
If a student wanted to keep diving down, oftentimes some of the words within dictionary definitions are difficult. I can do that. So I'll put my cursor before the word provocative. That's hard to pronounce. And I got another definition. We also have a picture dictionary. So for some students, it helps them to see a picture of a word. And then you can see here, there are synonyms and translation support. For any English language learners, you can select any amount of text and quickly translate that text on the fly. So by selecting translation, you can choose the language you want the text translated to. And then in this situation, when I select read, Kurzweil knows to choose a Spanish speaker to have that text read aloud.
Las plantas con semillas también han tenido un enorme impacto en la sociedad humana, comenzando hace aproximadamente.
I'll take a quick pause before I go on. Are there any questions or even comments as you think about your student population right now?
I have question, Cami. So I use Kurzweil as a student, not as an instructor. So if I use it as an instructor and I want to really highlight a paragraph or things for my students and comment on it, I would be able to give them that version via link or something like that. Is the I wonder if that would work here.
Yeah, hi Fatma. So I think what you're asking, so if you highlighted text, I think this is what you're asking, but please let me know if I didn't answer it. So let's say you highlighted text, maybe you highlighted some main ideas in one color and then some supportive ideas in another color. What you can do, you can say, if you saved this and put this in your public folder, well, so a couple of things. You can put things into your students folder. And so what you can do once you save something, you then have the option. Let me go back here. Where did I save that? Recently opened files. I'm sorry, I did it too quickly and I can't find where I saved it to, but when you have something, regardless of what it is, you can select it and then either copy it or move it to a student's folder. Another thing, let me just go back to what I did. Let me see. Another thing you can do, when you highlight text, if you just want to extract that highlighted text and begin studying it or sharing it with students, whatever you'd like to do with it, you can do that. So you can highlight text, and then under the highlight area, you can just extract the highlighted notes. So if I click extract, I can get rid of all these other check boxes if I want to, and just choose my yellow and green highlighter. I'm just going to select everything right now. And then you can extract your highlights. It's actually going to extract some other things that I have in there. But if I want to, I could just extract that highlighted text. And then again, I can save it. I can share it with other students. I can put it in their folder. But I'm not sure, did that address your question, Fatma?
Yeah, I was just looking for how the faculty for special needs or special reading materials, how to really use Kurzweil in that. So highlighting the text and encouraging the student to work through Kurzweil, I think it will work for me. The way that I see it is more than extracting the comment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, you know, it just this is how I see it. But I don't know what other participants they think about how it's been used.
Right. I was going to say that a little bit or somewhat relevant to that, oftentimes what we see at the K-12 level, so it's not necessarily set up that way, usually at the college level, but I'm going to jump over here for a minute. Sometimes at the K-12 level, we'll see teachers, we see like me at the top, and then a list of students under them. And then the students can look up into the teacher's public folder. But another thing as well, in terms of an article, and again, I think this is sort of more common at the K-12 level, but we oftentimes see teachers sort of embed themselves into the student's text. You might begin to annotate or take a note and put it into the student's text, and when they open up that reading material, there'll be specific notes from their teacher. I'll talk a little bit more about note-taking and how you can do that in just a couple of minutes. But I think to your point, Kurzweil doesn't necessarily have to be used on its own by a student. It may be that you're reading together and Kurzweil is projected at the front of the room and it can be real interactive. And then you talk to students about what you're reading. Students, if it were a smartboard, can even come up and use their fingers to highlight different parts of the text as you talk about it. So it can really be used in an interactive manner, not necessarily the students just going off and using it independently. Let me see here. So I showed some of the reference tools, and along those lines, in terms of understanding what you're reading, another feature that is oftentimes helpful, there's a feature that allows students or anyone using Kurzweil to create a vocabulary study guide. And the way it works is you can highlight words and then extract those specific words and their definitions into a separate and new column note file. I'm going to go over to page 3 where I've already highlighted some words. And so if I scroll down a little, you can see I've highlighted integument, ovule, and pollination. And now I have the option to extract those words and their definitions in a new 3-column note file. And the way I'll do that is on the left under column notes, the tool that has the arrow coming up and out to the right will allow me to extract those words and their definitions. And so it took the 3 vocabulary words that I highlighted and put them into columns on the left, and then gave me their definition and or definitions if there was more than one in definition in the columns to the right, column 2 and column 3. And from here, people can do several things. First of all, they can save this and keep adding to it. And so let's say this were a textbook and this were from chapter 1, but this weekend the student plans to read chapters 2 through 5. They can keep extracting additional words and adding it to this new file. They can print this, they can hide columns. So if they want to test or quiz themselves, they can do that. I'm going to do something different for column 3. I'm going to create my own definition because I find that when I put words or when I give my own definitions to words, it helps with my understanding, but also with better long-term retention rather than quick memorization. So I'll create one definition for the word integument. And anywhere I have an option to type or write within Kurzweil, I also have the option to enable Kurzweil's voice dictation. So Kurzweil serves both as text-to-speech, meaning it reads text aloud, but also as speech to text, meaning I can dictate. And so I'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you. Within the browser version of Kurzweil, the voice dictation works very, very well. So to enable it, you place your cursor where you'd like that dictation to begin. And then it's the button at the top that has the 3 dots. And I'll just create a quick definition for the word integument. Integument is a tough protective outer layer in a plant or animal, period. And if it made a mistake, I can certainly go in and manually correct it. The speech to text feature also works in the installed version of Kurzweil. So for any student that might benefit when they're typing for the dictation, I think this is a good feature to show them. Sometimes for students, and well, first of all, I think we're all used to talking into our devices now. So we're used to doing that, but for someone who fatigues easily, or maybe someone with attention issues, this may be, or dyslexia, this may be a really helpful option for them if they are writing. And again, it doesn't have to be a quick note. This can certainly be typing a whole paper. They can certainly dictate. And let me address, I think Fatma has a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering how that different from the dictation in Microsoft Word. Is it enhanced version? What are the differences?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not so sure. Yeah, I'll have to check on that for you. Let me just write that down. May I circle back with you on that?
Yeah, I think it's enhanced for a feature. I just want to make a rich conversation here to involve everyone. But I use a lot of the word dictation, but this has much more. Sometimes it turn off on you, but Kurzweil has better processes and actually it allow you speak while they're talking easily. The Word document is just stop in the middle. So sometimes it doesn't pick up all the words, but Kurzweil has a better process the word or the speaking when it's for dictation.
Yeah, I will tell you though. So I obviously want to be as helpful to you as possible. So within the browser version, it does work really, really well. It hardly ever makes a mistake. When I first started using the voice dictation from the installed version, it didn't pick up my speech as well. It took a little bit of training. So I found there was a distinction between the voice dictation from the installed version versus the browser version. So I think it works better out of the gate from the browser version.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let me go ahead and close this. And I'll start moving down to some of the features along the left here. And what I'll do, again, as a reminder, is I'll show you some additional features in the browser version. And then I want to move over to Kurzweil's Read the Web extension, again, which is a part of Kurzweil that can be used to read any website. It can also, again, integrate with LMSs. So the first feature at the top are bookmarks. When you're bringing a text into Kurzweil, if it already has embedded bookmarks, it will keep them, but you can also add your own. It's very easy. I'm not going to show it now to add bookmarks throughout your text. And the benefit of that is, again, then you can go directly to that page. I showed you some of the highlighters before. So you can use the highlighters the same way you'd use regular highlighters in marking up your own traditional print style books. Maybe you have different methods for different color highlighters. You can, again, extract that highlighted text. And then there are also circle and cross out tools. Moving down, I definitely want to take a couple minutes to focus on this area. Kurzweil has lots of ways to mark up or annotate your text. So there are different types of notes that you can take. And I'll show you a couple of those. So there are sticky notes. These look just like the colorful sticky colors of paper that most of us use. And you have the option to change the color, the font, the size. So you can really personalize these. So maybe I'll say reread chapters 2 and 3. And again, I can change the size, the color, the font. And then if I want to get rid of a note, I can certainly get rid of it. Another type of note is a text note. This is very similar. It's the exact same as a sticky note, except it has a clear background. Another note option that's very helpful, you have the option to add a quick voice note. So instead of typing, you can just take a quick voice note, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that too. Thank you for joining me today. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for joining me today. Please let me know if you have any questions. And what I did actually on the last page, I had embedded another voice note. And so it shows up as this speaker icon. And then you just select it to have that note play. This weekend, go through all the MP3 tutor sessions. Again, so there are different types of notes that people can take as they're reading. So I'd like to do one more thing before I leave the browser version of Kurzweil, and that's talk a little bit about writing and how Kurzweil can be used to support writing. So it's grown a lot in this area. And the first thing I'll do is I'll go back to the Universal Library, and it's the home area of the program. And the blue folders along the left are available to everyone. So everyone can open and access these folders. And the templates folder on the bottom contains some writing templates. And these are designed to help students get started with their writing assignment. So for anyone that really has a difficult time, or it's taking them a long time to get started with their writing assignment, or anyone that needs extra help with executive functioning type supports, I think it's probably a lot of us, these may be helpful. So within the templates folder, there's a series of 3 subfolders, and I'll go ahead and open the higher ed folder. And so we've categorized these writing templates. And so a student would look through and choose one that aligned with their purpose for writing. And when you open them, you have the option to view them in or as a graphical format. So it's a graphic organizer, or in more of a linear format. And I'll go ahead, I'll open academic essay. It's going to give me a little prompt here to be able to use it. And all of these writing templates can be customized. And so if a student were working on an academic essay, let's say in their writing center, and they decided, or their teacher maybe said, this is great, but right now you don't need to include this many details. You can edit these and save them. And so the idea is to help a student get started with their writing assignment. So they would put in their topic. Plant diversity, and so on. Sometimes, excuse me, we give tips for students. So anywhere you see a paper icon, if you expand it, it will then give you more information on what that topic is. So here it's going to tell a student why an academic essay is important and what it is. And I'll go ahead and have that played.
Typical format for an academic paper includes an introduction and a thesis. The thesis is supported by a series of body paragraphs with subpoints and a conclusion.
And so once a student has gone in and they've completed their outline, and then they're ready to add more detail, if they want, they can split their screen so that they can look and listen to their outline on one part of the left part of their screen, but then have a blank draft area on the right. And here students can drag and drop text over. They can type, they can dictate, or they don't necessarily have to look at their outline. They can simply start off, drafting their paper. That was just an idea of a way to go about writing. But I'll take another pause. Are there any, you know what I also see? I think there are two things in the chat window. Okay. Are there any questions or comments right now?
The only question I have, earlier you comment that we can integrate this in our Blackboard. I don't think that was option when we roll this out. So I would love to see how we can integrate it into our LMS. Yeah,
so that was good timing for it, because I was going to transition anyway into the Read the Web extension. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'll talk a little bit about it. But Kurzweil's Read the Web extension, it's a toolbar that hovers over any website, and that's the part of Kurzweil that you would use to read the content in Blackboard, and it does work very well with it. So let me go ahead and show it to you. So I'm going to close this tab. I happen to have Canvas open. This could be Blackboard. And what happens is there are two Kurzweil Read the Web extensions. One's designed for Chrome, one's designed for Firefox. And the first step is to add this extension to either or both browsers. And so to Chrome, which I'm in now, the first step was I visited the Chrome store, did a search for Kurzweil 3000, and then added that extension to my browser. And then here I will need to know my username and password. And it shows up or displays as this toolbar that hovers over the website. So you can see I'm in Canvas now. And what this is a toolbar that has a subset, so a smaller set of the features than the installed or browser version has, but it still has quite a few. And we continuously add to it. Again, our engineers do update the tool every month. Sometimes it might be more features are added to this Read the Web extension. Sometimes it might be weighted toward the install version. Each month it differs a little bit according to their timeline. And so I won't go through all these, but I will show you some of these. So again, I'm in Canvas, and first of all, I have the same audio options that I have from the browser version or in the browser version. So I can certainly choose a voice. I can quickly adjust the rate of speech. I can change the positioning of this toolbar. So on the upper right, if it's interfering with my ability to read that web page well, I can move it over to the center or the left. And again, I can certainly change the way the text is highlighted and read aloud too. The reading works the same. You place your cursor where you'd like that reading to begin and select the read button.
As a group project during the 1997 Hummingbird Banders Conference in southeastern Arizona.
I didn't show this feature before, but if for some reason you wanted your text read, or sorry, highlighted, but not read aloud, you can turn the audible reading off. And that might be applicable to a student who is practicing their own fluency or possibly for another reason. And I won't go through the rest, but there's the dictionary tool, translation tool. We still have the highlighters. So this is a really helpful option to know about, whether you're reading content in an LMS or just any website. Let me go back. I want to show one more thing to you. Oh, I think someone else, is it Dr. Shans has a question?
Thank you so much. I'm just wondering, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I thank you so much, Ms. Griffith. I just wanted to know how a student needing a Braille would be able to make that selection to have the material translated from Braille into a language that would be commensurate with that particular student or any other of the version. I'm just dealing with Braille right now, someone who's literally using Braille and needs another interpretive way of understanding and reading and hearing.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is a good question. I am not sure offhand how a Braille user would have the text translated. So in addition to Fatima's question about Microsoft Word for the dictation, may I circle back with you on that as well?
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Griffith.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a good question. Let me see. So I want to show one more thing to you, or make sure you had it, and that is the number for Kurzweil's technical support. So again, the tool is very reliable and stable. That being said, it is software. If something goes wrong, there's a number that people can quickly call, and that's the tech support number. Well, I know a lot about the functionality of the program. I don't necessarily know about some of the back end, more engineering related parts. And that would be the time. You could certainly start off with me and I can refer you over, or you can just contact tech support directly. And let me see if I have their number here. Otherwise, I will just make it for you. I'm gonna put it in right now. And the other thing to note is I am definitely readily available as a resource. I enjoy speaking with both students and staff. So if a student wanted to get directly in touch with me, please don't hesitate to give him or her my information as well. So let me start off with my information. I think you all have it, but I'm gonna make the font bigger. There we go. So my email is cami.griffith@kurzweiledu.com, and my telephone number, that's right there. And then I'll give you technical supports. And they are the same number, they're just a different extension. Oops. So they are, it'll voice prompt you through, but they are extension 3. The part of Kurzweil I didn't show to you today is the installed version, but you certainly have the option to install Kurzweil on any computer. You don't need to ask, you have the right to do that. The installed version and the browser version have very similar feature sets. They just look different. So for students, sometimes they choose to use one over the other. If they're already using the installed version and they're familiar with the way it works, they might stick with that. if they started using the browser version and they're more familiar with where those features live, they may just stick with that. Or they can certainly go back and forth between both. So are there any other questions or thoughts? And again, once the recording finishes on my computer, I'll certainly send that out.
And Cami, I just wanted to thank you. This was a really great session. I also learned a lot, and I wanted to just ask, I know a lot of our students access courses and courseware through their iPad or tablet. How
Yeah.
does the Kurzweil work on those?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. We did have a specific app. It wasn't used as much. We discontinued it. Oh, I can't recall exactly. Sometime within the past year. It's just the browser version of Kurzweil.
Okay.
So from their iPad, whatever, Safari, bring up their browser, log into Kurzweil3000.com, and it will work fine. The same from their phone. So, well, I can't work well from my phone, but you can see I wear glasses. It's hard for me to see things well from my phone. I know both my daughters are constantly on their phones and can do everything. I think like most college people, they actually do work from their phone. So the same thing, bring up their browser from their phone, log in to the browser version of Kurzweil, and it will work very well from their phone. It really functions on any device.
Excellent. Thank you, Cami. Are there any other questions from our group today?
Well, I thought it was very, very well done.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Cami Griffith.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining me today. Again, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Another thing, we're a small organization. We like hearing feedback. We like hearing if something's not working, certainly please reach out. But we like hearing suggestions too. So if you think there is a feature or features which would help enhance the tool, please let me know and I'll pass it on to our engineers.
Well, Cami, I think the feature that I see that more could be enhanced is the integration part. So I know about the web extension, but when I say integration part is how you distribute the material. So for example, especially the one that you highlighted and add some notes, how we can link that into our LMS. So probably there are LTI tool that could be facilitate that connection. So instead of our student go another application, they will only click icon in Blackboard and it will immediately take them to Kurzweil.
Yeah.
Let's have more conversation about that because that will enhance the system so much because it will be in one ecosystem rather than going back and forth between applications.
Right. Can I ask a favor of you, Fatima? Is there any way you can email that to me?
I will.
Big long, and then I will pass that email directly along to our engineers and Kurzweil's, the director of Kurzweil.
Absolutely. I'm writing it right now.
Thank you.
And I'm more than happy to test it in our environment. We have a stage inside that we can test it out for you.
That's helpful to know.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm also putting Cami's information in the chat box for anyone that's here. So you see her email, her phone number, as well as technical support. And is that technical support 24 hours?
No, they're not. I can't recall. It's on our website exactly what the hours for. Most of our tech support people are based in California.
Okay.
They are 3 hours behind. It might be 7 to 3, 7 to 4 Eastern.
Okay.
I can't recall what it is offhand. It's on our website.
Excellent.
But if you left a message, they would get back to you within a timely manner.
Well, Cami, before we close, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share about how Kurzweil can really improve our student learning outcomes here on campus?
Well, a couple things. So in terms of introducing it to students, I always recommend starting off with really just the basic features like read, the read button, the dictionary support, maybe the highlighters. And then, you know, sort of adding more to their knowledge. But I think sometimes starting off with the basic features is really helpful and not overwhelming to students. And then I think not being assumptive that this may not apply to a certain student. because through the years, we've seen the application, really grow. It's really a universally designed tool that can be used by a broad range of learners. And again, we've seen the way colleges and universities are distributing it change through the years, where people used to subscribe really only for students with identified learning differences. And now so many are making it available campus-wide because they see the scope and range of what it can do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that, I've been using more, and I know our colleagues are using more as well. So we are looking forward to working with faculty more, especially as the fall semester comes up, and really integrating this in their courses and letting students know about it as well. Well, Cami, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's like such a wonderful webinar. Cami will be sharing the recording with me, so I'll upload that to our YouTube channel as well for reference. But thank you again for leading today.
Thank you. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your summer.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Right, thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you. Well done. Okay, so where do I log off?